Hello, welcome to another Yoga with Tims. So this is a mini yoga class. We're just going to look at some poses that can be beneficial for your ankles and your feet, especially if you're like stood up all day or you tend to do a lot of things on your feet. They're not designed as a replacement for medical treatment. They're just designed to strengthen the feet, strengthen the ankles, and give them a little bit of a workout and get some flexibility back into the joints a little bit, really. So we are in a slightly different location. You might see the dragon rubbing against the glass at some point, or you might not. She's quite relaxed at the moment, but just ignore her if you see her. And we're going to get started in downward dog. So we're going to use a wall, and I'm just going to show you this against the settee back instead, which is why I'm in a slightly different location. So you're going to come into a downward dog, but what you're going to do is you're going to put your feet against the wall. So you're going to have your toes nice and flat and your feet just pressing against the wall, and then you're going to push yourself up. And you're going to walk your hands out just a little bit. But you're coming into a downward dog, so you're still pushing the hips up to the ceiling, you're pushing the mat away with your hands, really stretching that back out. But you've also got a bit of pressure against the feet, so that you're working your ankles in a slightly different way, and you're working the toes in a slightly different way. And this just stretches different muscles in the feet than what you might be used to stretching. And you can hold this for as long as you want. If it feels good, hold it for longer. And then to come out of it, you'd literally just come down back onto the floor. So the next posture strengthens all the back of the legs, and it is one that you probably do quite regularly in your yoga practices, especially if you do sun salutations. You might stop in downward dog and do this in order to warm up the hamstrings. But again, it also works the muscles in the feet and the ankles. So set up for downward dog. We're not against the wall this time, so you can see the difference in the position of the feet and the ankles when you're doing the dog normally compared to when you're up against a wall. And we're just going to pedal the legs out. So making sure you're keeping nice and strong in that back, pushing the hips up, bend the knees as much as you need to, and we're going to pedal through the legs. Just increasing the flexibility through the toe joints, through the foot muscles, through the ankles, and also along the hamstrings, and just warming up the legs in general. This is a good pose for either after you've been running, before you've been running, or before you do a hamstring intense yoga class. And again, you can continue that for as long as you feel you need to, and for as long as it feels good for you. So the next one we're going to do is we're just going to tuck our toes under, and then we're going to sit back onto our heels. So this gives you a nice toe stretch. And some of you might not be able to come back quite this far. You might have to have your bum slightly up because it might be quite intense. Others will be able to come back quite nicely. Just go to where it feels comfortable for you. You will get a stretch on the underside of the toes, and also along this bottom of the foot. And then coming out of that, placing the feet flat on the ground, coming down onto heels again, and this time we're going to lift the knees up off the ground, leaning backwards. If you want to do this against a wall, you can do. You might be able to go further back if you use a wall to get more of a stretch. But the idea is you're getting a stretch up the front of the ankles and the top of the feet. And then coming down out of that. So now we're going to just come down onto our backs. We're going to cross one foot over the other knee. So if I lie down facing you, you want the foot nice and flexed, the knee pushing out, and you're going to bring the other leg up and in to thread in the needle pose, or eye of the needle pose. And this one works the outer hip, but if you do some foot circles here, it also works the ankle, and because of the position of the leg, it works different muscles in the ankle than foot circles often do. So it's just working those different muscles, but just being really careful not to put too much pressure on the knee while you're doing the foot circles. So you want the knee to be nice and relaxed, and then coming down, and you can repeat that on the opposite side then. So again, making sure the foot is nice and flexed as you cross it over the knee, bringing the knee up and in. So I'm not pressing on that knee, I'm keeping my elbow away from the knee, nice and relaxed, so that I can do foot circles, moving the ankle joint. Also moving my toes for the foot circle, so you're really making it nice and big, as though you're drawing with your big toe. And then exhaling and coming down. And a couple of other poses that are quite good for just increasing the flexibility in the ankles, and that you can put into your everyday yoga classes, is Vajrasana or hero pose. So for this one, your feet are actually just out at either side of the body, at either side of the hips, and your bum is sitting nicely on the floor. So initially you might find that this is a bit much on your knees, so you can sit on a block to start with and then gradually lower it. So maybe you start on a block and then you use a cushion, and maybe you use then a thin book, and you gradually lower it until you can get yourself down on the floor while it's nice and comfortable. As I said, this does work the knees as well as working the ankles, and again, it's just a different position to have this area of the leg in. And then another one that can be quite good, and which is usually seen as a hip opening pose, is your Baddha Konasana. But if you actually turn the feet out in this pose, it does give you a deeper stretch in those hips, but it also allows you to do a little bit of myofascial release on the balls of the feet. So you can use myofascial balls here and just roll them on the feet, or you can use your thumbs, giving your feet a little bit of a massage, really working into any tight areas. You can just press and hold for a little bit, or do what feels good. But also, because you've got your feet turned out and you're against the floor, again you've got that strange positioning of the ankle, which the muscles aren't used to, so it helps increase the flexibility here. And the floor means that you're not going to over flex the ankle. It does give you that little bit of support just to keep that ankle nice and safe. And then bringing the knees back in. And then the ultimate ankle and foot flexibility pose would be Padmanasana, or the lotus pose. Because of the positioning of the feet against the hips, it is quite a nice stretch on the top of the foot, and it also just again places the foot in a position that you wouldn't normally have it, so you can see that it's a strange angle on the ankle. It's got a little bit of a twist, but again, it's safe as long as you do it properly. So you want your foot up in the hip joint, nice and tight. You don't want to be forcing the knee down, so if the knee won't come down with one foot up, don't try and put the other foot on top. Stay in half lotus, and you can bring your other foot underneath, and gradually your knee will come down, and you might want to have your foot just out in front. A lot of the time it's actually the top of the foot that stops the knee from coming down, because you can feel the strain on the muscles of the top of the foot. So it's just working gradually into it, so you can do one side and then do the other side. And even if you can come into the full lotus and have both feet up, you still need to alternate sides for which one's at the bottom and which one's at the top. So again, you're taking your foot, you're bending the knee in, then you're bringing the foot round, so that'll get the correct positioning of the hip, which is quite important. And then you want to bring the foot up and into the joint where your leg meets your groin. And again, if your knee can come down to the floor quite happily without too much strain in the ankle, you can put your foot up on the other side. If you're feeling strain in that ankle, make sure you're lifting your knee slightly higher, reposition your foot. And definitely don't bring the other foot up if you've got any strain in this ankle. There shouldn't be strain in the ankle. You might feel a bit of pinching in the top of the foot. If there's strain in the ankle, the position's not quite right with the foot. And again, as you're coming out, always make sure to assist the body out. These are positions that it's not used to being in, and so if you just try and jump out of them, it is likely that you could cause minor injuries. So do just take care, give yourself that little bit of assistance coming out of the poses, and enjoy working those ankles and feet. Leave some comments if there's things you'd like to see, things you think could be improved with different angles, different ways of looking at it. Let me know in the comments below. Appreciate all feedback. Namaste.